delighted to say today we're joined by the highly esteemed London-based consultant psychiatrist, Dr. Sunil Raheja. And Mr. Dr. Raheja, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon to talk all things burnout, a very prevalent topic that affects thousands upon millions of people worldwide. And well, before we get into the questions, Dr. Raheja, if you'd like to maybe provide a brief introduction about your areas of expertise and experience.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for this opportunity to talk with you and to be here. So I work as a psychiatrist and a coach in private practice. I do that online and also based at 96 Harley Street as well. The way that I sort of describe the work that I do is I say I help ambitious high achievers avoid burnout so that they can wisely pursue success through meaning, purpose, and fun. And I sort of talk about that more in my book, Dancing with Wisdom, a sacred quest to restore meaning, purpose, and fun to your life and work. That's sort of a bit of an introduction to me. I hope that's helpful. Yeah.
Fantastic, Dr. Raheja. Again, I'd like to really stress, well, we're so grateful here, top doctors, that you decided to join us this afternoon to talk about burnout, as you say, a very interesting topic as well. I feel like it's not really been explored enough or talked about enough, especially in the workplace. And do you feel as though burnout is becoming more of a problem in today's society, especially since the COVID pandemic?
Yeah, I think obviously since the COVID pandemic, people are more willing to talk about mental health issues and if they're struggling. And maybe, how can I put it really? There's certainly more willingness to talk about it. Burnout itself, again, it may be there's a reluctance because it means that you're not doing so good at your job, maybe that you're not really up to par, up to standard. So there's obviously a reluctance in a sense to admit it, but that doesn't mean to say that it's not pretty common, pretty prevalent. And I work a lot with people who have got, who are high achievers, high performers, and they're particularly at risk of that because, if you carry on doing what you've always done, then it's very easy to stagnate or to find yourself sort of, as it were, floundering. But again, it's very hard to admit to that and be open about that.
Absolutely. You talk about high achievers, high performers. Is burnout really a problem because they're really trying to achieve unrealistic goals or putting too much pressure on themselves?
I think the issue is that the phrase is that he who's good with a hammer treats everything as a nail. And there's a tendency to think that because you're very successful in one area over a period of time, that you carry on doing the same thing. What happens is that you carry on in a particular field and you just keep on doing what you've always done. But eventually you sort of tend to plateau. And I think this is one of the things about burnout. I mean, burnout, if I could just help you, with a simple sort of working definition of that, it's in a sense, this sense of physical and emotional exhaustion, feelings of cynicism and detachment, and a sense of ineffectiveness, sort of going through the motions and not really accomplishing what you could in the past. And it's often hard to talk about that, but there's this sense that I'm not maybe at the level that I was in the past or reaching what I was in the past.
Absolutely. And I suppose maybe taking a step out of the workplace then, how can burnout affect us maybe in our relationships or at home? Can that really affect us?
I think in the sense that one of the things about burnout is it's very confined. It's usually confined to an area of work or to a particular area. Now, when we're burning out, if we say in work, and we've previously been very good at it, and we've previously got the results that we've got used to getting, and then we're finding that we're not getting those same results, the same level of success that we had before, then that can affect our self-esteem, it can affect our sense of self-worth, which then can spill over into relationships with others, with those who are close to at home, or into other areas of life. Because we're, in a sense, particularly if we define ourselves very much, if our sense of identity comes from our work or from a sense of accomplishment, if we're not accomplishing as well as we could, then we begin to question ourselves in terms of our own sort of contribution, our own sense of self-worth, which, as I said, would spill over into relationships at home and into other areas as well.
Absolutely. And maybe just touching then on depression and anxiety, how closely related is burnout to these conditions then?
Yeah, so depression is more pervasive. So the ICD-10 or ICD-11 coming up now, or the DSM-5 talk in terms of specific criteria of a pervasive sense of low mood, of sadness that permeates all of life. So it isn't confined to a particular area. Whereas within burnout, it's within a particular area, a particular sphere. Whereas depression would actually sort of extend throughout the day into other areas of life, and you would see that in terms of low mood, in terms of a lack of enjoyment in usual things, poor sleep, poor appetite, losing weight, a sense of well, another sense of emptiness and a sense of worthlessness, loss of concentration. Whereas within burnout, if you switch the context or you switch somewhere else, you take a break or you find something that you actually enjoy doing, then you're able to re-engage. That's the difference between depression and burnout. Although it doesn't mean to say that burnout might not lead to depression. That can certainly happen. Yeah, I hope that's helpful there.
Absolutely. And well, you mentioned it there that it can definitely correlate. And how dangerous then, if left untreated or unnoticed, how dangerous can burnout become?
I think the effects of burnout, if you're not aware of it, then it can lead to increasing sense of cynicism and detachment. It could go on to depression, certainly. But I think the biggest danger is that this growing sense of ineffectiveness, this growing sense of exhaustion can, as it were, begin to permeate more and more of one's life and affect one's relationships, affect everything else that one is doing. And in turn, with that sense of ineffectiveness, begin to affect one's self-esteem, one's own self-worth, lead on to depression and anxiety, lead on to feelings of worthlessness and hopelessness, which can be very dangerous, especially if that then leads on to feelings that life is not worth living, and that there's no purpose or point in what I'm doing because I'm no longer good at what I once was. So it could be potentially very, very dangerous, especially if you've got no one with whom to talk about it with, no one who can give you a different perspective or a different way of looking at it. Especially, I think, particularly, when it's just going on in our heads and we feel ashamed or embarrassed by it, then the consequences can be very, very severe.
Absolutely, Doctor. It's as you say there, it's very important to have somebody, a friend, family member, anybody to really just get it off your shoulders, to feel like they say, a problem halved is a problem shared.
So,
So it's very important to really kind of not open up, say share all.
I think certainly open up to safe people. I mean, and I suppose that's what makes it slightly tricky as well, because there are those people, find people who will understand, who won't judge you for it. And sometimes in the work context, that can be difficult because admitting weakness and vulnerability can feel threatening to some people. So you have to be very, very careful who you open up and share those feelings with. But it's important that you don't hold it yourself. And in many ways, that's sort of the service that I offer as a coach and a psychiatrist, is providing a safe space within which to explore these feelings, and also create a great sense of self-awareness as to why one's reached this particular stage, and then begin to think of options and different things that you can do to help you, in a sense, because burnout doesn't have to be all negative, because it can actually be a growth opportunity as well, because maybe it's also pointing to the fact that you've reached a sort of a plateau at this stage, and really that you need to be either looking at things in a different way or trying something different or going into a new area. So it can be actually quite an opportunity for growth as well.
Absolutely. If you take it, really kind of reflect and maybe reflect on what you need in life, what your aspirations are, it can definitely lead to a very positive path. That's a very
It's important to have a safe space within which to do that, because you want an environment that's non-judgmental, that it allows you to explore different options. And yes, certainly with work colleagues, maybe thinking outside the box about a different role that can be quite threatening to others, or even within the family as well, because family members might start thinking, well, if he or she's talking this way, then how's that's going to impact on the way that we're living, on where we are. And so I think I would really emphasize it's finding the safe and right people with whom you can do that with.
Absolutely, Doctor. Well, Dr. Hedges, that absolutely fascinating insights. Really, really enjoying this actually. And well, the next question I have then is, well, in this society, people tend to live by a "I'll rest at the weekend" kind of mindset. Does this really work and benefit us?
Yes, that's a great question. I think one of the things, because technology affords us so much amazing things we can do. You and I can communicate remotely. We can connect with people around the world instantaneously. We've got so much opportunities available to us, and it's available 24/7. The problem is it's easy to forget this. We are human beings before we're human, and we're not human doings. We're a human being, and so we aren't created to live in a way that's on all the time. And the danger, I think, of living just in terms of just resting at weekends is that it's not like charging your phone battery, you know, and just making sure it's charged and then just carrying on. We need to have rhythms and cycles. You need to ensure that you're getting sufficient rest during every day, not just at the weekends. You need to ensure that you're eating well and you're having good nutrition, not just at the weekends, but also through the week, because ultimately everything will take its toll. And I think it's that realization actually that we're human beings, we're not human doings. And so often we define ourselves on the basis of what we do rather than who we are. And that's always dangerous because, I might be, in my case, I'm a doctor, I'm a psychiatrist, I'm a coach. But if I allow that to be my definition of who I am, that if I don't do a good job one day or something like that, it's very easy for that to affect my self-esteem, my sense of self-worth. And so we need to understand that we're holistic beings. We're body, mind, and spirit. And so, the answer to this question is that's why I think it's dangerous just for the weekends, because what you're doing is you're making this difference between, people talk about life-work balance. Problem is, as far as I know, all working people are alive. So it's actually all of life. And who I take myself to work, if I have been sleeping poorly or if I've been neglecting my body, then it's going to impact sooner or later.
Absolutely. We can't ignore it. It's really hard to, because our physical symptoms will definitely let us know that something's not right. And I suppose, which physical symptoms should people really watch out for? Maybe related to burnout, anxiety, depression?
Yeah, I think the key thing is this sense of physical and emotional exhaustion. So what you once used to enjoy and you used to wake up with enthusiasm, it's that sense of dread, maybe on the Sunday night, looking ahead to Monday morning, thinking, oh no, and in a sense, it's not unusual to have those feelings, but when you find yourself avoiding tasks, avoiding work, avoiding things that you used to previously enjoy and have enthusiasm for, I think maybe they're warning signals, as well as in terms of just you're finding that you're procrastinating, you're being less effective than you used to be. It's comparing to where you were before, and so that's important to ask yourself, what has changed? Why is this because I've lost interest in this area? Is it because there's been changes in my work environment that mean that I'm not able to perform at my best? Because really, when we're performing at our best, when we're doing what we're good at and what we enjoy doing, then that increases our sense of self-worth, our sense of contribution, and in general enthusiasm. And if it's not there, if that spark is gone, if it's missing, then those are warning signals that something's not quite right. And again, it's important to find a safe place, a safe person within which to explore that with, because as I was sort of saying earlier, it has the potential as well to be a growth opportunity for you as well, and maybe to pivot in a different direction, maybe to just change some things in the work environment that aren't serving you as they were in the past. But you need to have that self-awareness. You need to have someone with whom you can, as it were, bounce ideas and explore that in a structured way.
Absolutely. It's very interesting, Dr. Hedge. You're touching a lot on, I suppose, meaning in life, a little bit of, or motivation. So for people who are maybe in a job that they're not really passionate about, would you really urge them to really try and prioritize what's important to them, what makes them really tick and get up in the morning? Is it important to make those changes?
Yeah, the title of my book is Restoring Meaning, Purpose and Fun to Your Life and Work. And meaning, knowing what your why is going to be the fuel that is going to keep you going. Because I mean, we all have days that are difficult. We all have, where it's difficult to get up in the morning, where, it's a beautiful day today, but it's overcast, it's dull, it's, and there's something we're dreading to do. But if I've got a big enough why, then I can, as it were, handle the other things that are coming my way. So meaning is vital. And if you've lost connection with that, so often people feel like that they're a cog in a big machine, and they can't see the benefit that they're making in their work. And so it's understanding the big picture of why I'm doing what I'm doing. Again, we can very quickly get into a pattern of just reacting to whatever is latest and loudest. And again, we're connected on social media, we're connected to technology so much, and you're just reacting to emails or reacting to whatever's coming at you. But that leads to a sense of lack of accomplishment, a sense of emptiness, a sense of ineffectiveness. So re-engaging with, why do I do what I do? Why did I enter this career in the first place? What was it the difference that I wanted to make? Is that still serving me? Is that still something that I feel passionate about? Or can I look at it another way? Or do I need to make more significant changes?
Absolutely, Dr. Hedger. Really, really interesting. And I suppose maybe it might relate to mindfulness or meditative practices. Or would you recommend your patients to really prioritize time in the day, maybe 5 to 15 minutes of meaningful meditation or mindfulness, just being in the moment?
Oh, I mean, there's certainly a case to be said for that, because obviously, again, we're so controlled by technology. Technology is so ubiquitous in our lives that if I don't slow down and stop, that technology never switches off. And the other thing about it is that every email I reply to, or every social media post I respond to, there's always another one. But always another one. It never stops. So if I get all my emails done, get them down to zero, you can be guaranteed that a whole flood will come back in again very, very quickly. And unless I create a game that I can win, unless I have clear markers and boundaries in my life, it's very easy to get overwhelmed and to feel that you're always chasing your tail, that you're never getting quite there, because there's always more to do. There's always a sense of something that's not quite done, something that's not finished. And so if my identity and self-worth comes because I'm a person who finishes the tasks that they're given and gets things done on time, which is great. That's great to have those standards. But the problem is that we live in a day and age where you'll always be behind on something, because there's always something lurking around the corner that you don't know of that can come out and bite you. And so you've got to be able to get that space and distance. And in a sense, prayer, meditation, mindfulness are useful in that sense, that they can help us to come back down to the present moment, because we spend so much time flitting between things, maybe regretting stuff in the past that we feel guilty about, that we haven't done properly, and worrying about things in the future, that we actually don't live in the present moment, in the here and now. And all the power and all the resources are in the here and now. It's that, so that's why, certainly prayer, meditation, mindfulness, done correctly and done in the right way, can be very, very powerful. The problem is that sometimes I have people to talk about, they try to do mindful activities, and then they just find that their mind is just a buzz. It's very hard to sit quietly by oneself. And that's why it's important to maybe keep a journal, write about, get everything off your chest, get everything that's buzzing onto a sheet of paper so you can look at it more objectively. It's important to remember again that we are body, mind, and spirit. We're not just brains we're not just brain. We have a body as well, and to re-engage with one's body through exercise, through yoga, through Pilates, it's really important. As well as the fact that we're spiritual beings as well. So there's this sense of this existential, again, going back to your meaning question, why am I here on the planet? What really matters to me? What are the values that I have that are meaningful to me? And again, burnout can come because maybe I'm in an environment where I no longer agree with the values of the company that I'm with, or I agree with some of the decisions that I'm making. But you've got to have space and time within which to explore that and reflect on that. Danger is our society and culture is always on the go, and we don't give ourselves enough time to stop and pause.
Absolutely. Reflection, as you point out there, Dr. Hedger, really, really important. It's about finding that time. It is very difficult, but the rewards are absolutely endless once you actually have time to really reflect on what's important to you. your priorities.
Exactly. Absolutely. But you've got to be deliberate. I think the key thing is you've got to be very deliberate and intentional. If you don't make that decision, no one else is going to make it for you. You've got to make that decision. And yeah, I think that's vital. But it opens up a whole ocean of possibilities if you can make that decision. Yeah.
Absolutely, Dr. Hedja. Well, the next question then for you, job-related burnout. We touched on it, but it seems to be very, very common nowadays. But why is this, do you think? And when and how do you think we'll be able to ever avoid burnout? Is it ever in the workplace?
Well, I think we're certainly more aware of it than we were in the past. I think issues that we have more choices now, we have more opportunities than ever before. And so, we talk about phrases like FOMO, fear of missing out. We have, we've talked a lot about job-related burnout. And in a sense, COVID has, as it were, I would say, magnified things much, much more. For some people, it's been very, very positive because, maybe they were traveling around the country or around the world, living a very hectic lifestyle and just not aware of just how much they were draining themselves. And now they've completely slowed down and they've stopped to think, well, actually, I don't really want to travel as much as I was. Maybe I'm more connected to my family now. So it's raising choices and questions. And I think also we live in a world that's increasingly cynical, complex, and chaotic. And again, technology does that. It's often bad news and distressing things, as it were, tend to get our attention more. That's the way our media cycle runs. It runs on bad news and on negativity. And and there are lots of things to worry about and to fret about. And unless I've got clear boundaries in place, I've got to be very careful that I don't allow myself to get sucked into other people's narratives, and that I'm sort of secure in who I am and what I'm about and what I can do and what I can't do. Otherwise, it's very easy to get overwhelmed. And in that sense, job-related burnout is more of a risk. But also, we have opportunities, and if, particularly those of us who can control our diary and who can, with maybe the help of an assistant or with a coach, think about how to prioritize what's important and what's not, so that eventually I get to the things that really matter to me. And this is the challenge, though, I think, is that there's way more to do than you can ever get done. So I need to be able to decide, is this important to me now, or is this something I can shelve for a later date? What really matters today? What should I focus on today? Otherwise, I think, particularly again with technology, everything is equally important, and it's clearly not that case that way at all. So job-related burnout, in a sense, is going back to thinking, what are my priorities? What are the things that only I can do that no one else can do? And what are the key deliverables from my work role that I need to bring, that make the biggest difference, that bring the biggest ROI, return on investment, in terms of time, in terms of resources, in terms of my role.
Absolutely, Dr. Hedja. Absolutely. It's really, really insightful. And I really hope that people watching or listening this afternoon, if they might relate to some symptoms or feel overwhelmed or burnt out, that they really find some solace in this and really some inspiration to maybe reflect and look for that change, look for that motivation. It would be fantastic. Wow.
Pleasure, yeah. And in essentially, I have more resources. If you just go to drsnell.com, you can find out about my coaching program. You can find out about resources on burnout. If you just type in the search bar burnout, there's a podcast. I have an articles on that as well. And obviously, we've got this video here as well. Yeah.
Absolutely, Doctor. Before I let you go, I just have one more question, maybe about the treatment then for burnout. What is the most effective way to treat burnout then?
I think it's not a medication. There's no quick solution. But I think the first thing is the self-awareness. I think that would be the very first, most important thing, is to stop and think, and just pause and reflect and think, am I actually enjoying what I'm doing? Do I still have the same buzz and passion for what I'm doing? And if it's not there, why is it not there? And I think finding someone to talk to, and you can do that with with a coach, you can do that with a family member. With coaching, I think what the option that gives is to do that in a structured, confidential way, where you can really, in a sense, talk about everything that's really going on without fear of what might be the repercussions of saying that.
Yeah.
And I think also gives the opportunity to look at for maybe third options that you never thought of before, and opportunities that can actually open up a whole new world of possibilities. And I think that's probably the exciting thing, really. It doesn't have to be negative at all. Although the experience may feel negative, it can actually open up wonderful opportunities for you that you might never have thought or imagined.
Well, Dr. Hedja, that is absolutely brilliant, really interesting content. And I just want to say, on behalf of Top Doctors here, thank you so much for your time and for joining me this afternoon. That's fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Conor, and thank you for this opportunity as well.
Thank you, Dr. Hedja. And well, for anybody listening or watching this afternoon who would like to find out more information about Dr. Hedja, you can check out his Top Doctors profile over on www.topdoctors.co.uk. Thanks again, Dr. Hedja.
Thank you.